Okay, so now that you have finished recording your tracings for lateral V-hit, it will automatically end the recording once you get 20 on both sides, or once you get 20 on the second side. So you may have more on one side, but as soon as you get 20, at least 20 for both sides, it will stop and this screen will appear here. So it's generating the LARP screen, so it's trying to get you to progress to the next test if you want to do it. But for now, since the first part of your lab is only laterals and you may only do laterals on some of your patients, we're going to stop our collection here and we're going to go to review instead. So I'm going to click the review icon here over on the left, and it's got all the ones that we were practicing with here, so you can click on the different ones if you've run it multiple times. But this top one here is the last one that we just ran, and so over here we can see all of the data. And so this is the first screen where you're going to start your analysis of your V-hit responses. So this first screen here, over here on the left, this big box that has these X's and all the dots, this is our gain screen, and we can see that here with this highlighted portion that says gain. LL is left lateral and RL is right lateral. So these are the responses that we got for your left and right lateral V-hit responses. If we scoot over here to the right of that, we'll see that LL, left lateral, has a gain of 0.83 and RL has a gain of 1.00. The goal is to be as close to 1.00 as possible because that means that the eyes are exactly moving along the same way as the head is. Again, equal and opposite reactions, and so the right is about as perfect as you can get. The left, however, in this case, has a lower gain value. The normative gain value for lateral V-hit, you want it to be 0.8 or higher. So this is still considered normal, even though this is a pretty significant difference between both sides. So again, we see the average here indicated by the X. So if you highlight here, you see that the gain is 1.00, and then the average peak velocity, how fast the impulses were 219 degrees per second. Whereas on the left one here, the gain was 0.83, and then the average peak velocity, the speed of those V-hit responses, was 198 degrees per second. So a little bit slower here and much lower gain. If you click, or not click even, hover over any of these dots, it will show you each individual impulse. Now I've got this one highlighted. This is a really good one to look at. So the gain is 0.77, it's pretty low. And our peak velocity, or the velocity of this particular recording, was 220 degrees per second. The peak was. And so what you'll notice over here is the blue lines and then the green lines on the next screen over. So see how it highlights? I'm going to unhighlight. Everything disappears to the right. And then when I hover over it, it creates these impulses on the right. Now, I'm going to try to move my mouse. It'll be kind of hard to see here, but the blue line is the head motion and the green line there is the eye motion. And so you'll see that the green is substantially lower than the blue, and that's the gain value, is the difference there between the head and the eye motion. Now, right as the green line is going up, it peaks almost in the same latency, the same timing, but you'll see right after it's got that extra little peak right after. It peaks, it dips, and then it peaks again. That actually is a covert corrective saccade. It's a small one, but that's one that's happening during the head motion. Whereas when it comes all the way back down and then it peaks out again a little bit later, if you see at about a little over 200 degrees per second or 200 milliseconds, you're going to see it peak up there again. That is an overt corrective saccade. So this is a good example of both. Now you want those to be fairly consistent for that to be considered abnormal, and we're not really seeing that super consistently here. We see a few here. It's kind of hard to even see some of these overt saccades, but overall these are looking very pretty. So these are all the left ones compiled together and all the right ones compiled together here. The other thing that I needed to mention really are across the bottom is your latency, or the timing of these impulses, versus up here is the amplitude of them here, or really the eye velocity, how fast we're going. And so obviously the higher up, the faster the impulses were. So these ones up here were much faster than the ones down here. And then same on the right, we've got our timing in milliseconds, and then our head and eye velocity are going up here on the y-axis. And so we kind of see the general information here. You can look at this information in different ways. So I can go and see how many impulses I had. I can put notes in. I can look at specific tests and change the display. But really the only thing we're going to look at here is the gain. The other thing on the review tab up here, you see the 2D analysis. I can change how this looks as well. So some people like to view this as a hex plot. And so when you get all of your tracings, you will see this here in hex plot form. And hex plot shows each of the sets of impulses in different boxes, and you can see the mean gain values here in the middle. So if it's green, it's showing that that's a normal gain value. This will be really good to look at once we have more tracings, like your RALP and your LARP tracings as well. So it's showing really similar information. We even see the mean gain down here is 0.83 on the left, and if I scoot over to the right, the mean gain is 1, which is, again, beautiful and perfect. I'm going to go back up to the top again, so where you can see this in 3D analysis as well. Sometimes it's nice to see that. I'm not really seeing it show here as a 3D analysis. It does pop it out in 3D form. If you see it this way, I'll see if I can get a good one. Let's see if we can get some 3D analysis. So it looks something like this, but you'll have a whole bunch of them together. And so that's just another way to look at it. You can also play back the recordings and look at some other information up here, but I usually don't click past that. Okay, the last thing we're going to do on this screen is the report, and I'm going to create a separate video to talk about how to get the report information ready for printing and for scanning into your patient's file.